Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode. This week, we are going to be continuing the result that I want to help you with, which is in this Q4, close out of the calendar year, things that help you as a leader and help your team to be able to close deals and to help you be more effective as a leader when you are communicating with the result that you want. Now, this is specifically going to be about gently holding the how when you want a specific result. And here's what I mean by that. When you decide that you want your business to go in a certain direction as a leader, and you can picture in your mind the result that you want, whether it's increased sales or whether it's an improved process or whether it's specifically hiring certain new members of your team in order to get a result, your brain naturally goes towards the first thing that it wants to do, which is to figure out the how. It's like, okay, there's this result. How is that possible? How are we going to get there? And your brain will start going to work on, well, I'm going to have them do this, 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 and this. And we've all had leaders that lead this way. And I really want you to think about how you felt in a lot of those situations, especially if you have team members that have their own area of genius, whether that's marketing or sales or process improvement. If you're doing your job as a leader, you are hiring people that are smarter than you in these areas. You want them to be smarter than you. So as a leader, even though as a human, it can be very tempting to immediately start figuring out the how so you can just hand that to them, that's actually going to slow you down and rob you and your business and the results that you want of your team members being empowered to figure out the how on their own and figure out a process or a way to solve the problem, a way to solve the issue, a way to get the result you want, maybe in a different way, a drastically different way than you would have gone about it as far as the how, but in a much better way, a way that might blow you out of the water, and a way that makes them feel empowered, valued, and helps you as a leader to grow your team as future leaders within your company and future leaders in their own careers. So I want to talk about exactly how to do this today. When I was in a leadership training years ago, I was given a filter, a matrix to use that has served me very, very well in this regard. And I want to offer it to you as well. It's super simple, and it helps me as a leader whenever my brain, my sneaky brain, starts to go towards, I'm going to have them do this, 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 and this, and that will get the result. Because I did something similar to this in the past when I was in a role like theirs or when I was in a different position, and it worked. And so I'm going to make them do it that way. And you're robbing yourself, like I said, of results you could be getting in your business. And that's why you hired them, right? It's why you built a team, is to have them shine in that area so you don't have to figure out the how. So it's amazing how we start to do it anyway. And part of that has to do with wanting control. And also it can come from a very good place of you just wanting to be helpful. But it tends to backfire. And if you're one of those people that wants to give them the how and they don't follow it the exact way you said, then you start to have thoughts about, well, why didn't you do it the way that I wanted if they don't get the result in the same way or the same time frame that you wanted, which also can lead to problems as far as your interactions as a leader and your team. So here's a little bit of a story. Here's an example of how this came up in my own business recently. So we have the Confident On Camera coaching studio, which is launching in just a few weeks. And a lot of time has gone in with our team thinking of the most amazing way to create the content that will be in the course itself, as well as all of the marketing and the email sequences and the sales page and all the different components that go into any product launch in my specific industry. And so there's been a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. One of the things that I wanted to give over this time that I had done in the past was creating the sales page. Not only the actual design of the sales page, but how the sales page was going to be written, where the different sections were going to go and how it was all going to be laid out. I wanted to not have to do this anymore. That's the result that I wanted. I wanted to have an amazing sales page that gave all the information that anyone that might be curious about the course and about the program might need. And I wanted it to be easy to digest. And I even had a couple examples that I could point them to from my industry. Now, my sneaky brain immediately wanted to go towards going down a rabbit hole of spending 3 hours like, here's what I want. And also like this section should go here. And then we should have a section on this. And I totally noticed my brain starting to do that. And I hired this amazing person to handle it for me. His name's JD, and he did a fantastic job. He was highly recommended from other people that I highly respect as an expert in this area. And I hired him, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't fall into this trap. And so I used this very same filter, this matrix I'm about to give you, in order to allow him to know the result that I wanted, but for him to feel empowered to find the how on his own. The only thing that I asked was that it be built on this specific platform that he was an expert in and that my business and my courses run on already, Kajabi. And so that was it. I gave it to him, and this is exactly the process that I gave to him, and we have an amazing result. Not only the sales page, but also the cart process and the checkout process. He did things that I would not have thought to do, or done them in a way that I would not have thought to do them because I hadn't done it that way before. So my brain didn't have the experience to go about it. Design-wise, I got a much better result. If I had tried to hold everything tightly like I had in the past and be super controlling about what I wanted where and how I wanted it to work and the colors that did it and all this stuff, I would have had not as great of a sales page as we have now. Now, I want to be truthful here. There were moments where I still wanted to control it. So I don't want you to think that I'm some sort of paragon of self-restraint. My sneaky brain still wants to control things all the time. But I can take a moment and be curious and go, hey, brain, I'm a leader now. I'm a CEO. And that means I need to not get down into the weeds, and I need to let my team members shine in the area that they are better at this than I am. And that's wonderful because it allows them to grow. It allows them to lead. And when they hit a wall, to figure it out. And this is exactly the matrix you can use to help them figure it out, especially if you have an employee or a team member who is used to having a leader, like I used to be in the past, bad Aaron, where they would get every single step that needed to be done, and they're used to being in an environment where they're spoon-fed that. This will help them to be able to grow into these areas if they're not already good at that. So here it is, okay? This is, you can call it a management filter or a leadership filter for the result that you want to get. And you can use this just like this. We'll try to put this in the show notes as well. Now, the first thing you want to do is identify the issue. So write these things down before you start talking to the team member that you want to drive this result for you. The first thing is list the issue. List the result you want factually and specifically. Exactly what you want. Then move on to the requested solution. Now try to focus forward with your leadership brain on what needs to change or improve. It's the why. So be super specific. I want a sales page. I want it to be kind of like this. List an example perhaps if you want, but don't tell them to do it the exact same way. List it as an example so they have a North Star to move towards. Or conversely, you can give them examples of things that you definitely don't like that might save them time. We do that with clients all the time, with our marketing clients. We'll be, hey, if you want us to save time with a video we're producing for you, give us an example or two of videos you like, and conversely, a couple of examples that you hate. That will really help us to set where the guardrails are, and then we can improvise within that. So that can be really helpful as well. So give them the requested solution. Then The date or time frame. Thing number 3. Request a date that the result is in place, the thing that you want. In my case, a sales page. I want it in place by this day and live. So let's work backward. You need to work backwards from there, person, with review cycles and everything like that to make sure that it's up to what I want, the result that I want. But this is the day it has to be in place. Now, once you are clear on those things, first the issue, listing the result that you want, factually and specifically, the requested solution, focus forward, like be your future self on what needs to change or improve, or the result that you want, be super specific, and then the date and time frame. Request a date that the result is in place. Once you are crystal clear on those 3 points, then schedule the time to talk with the person or the team member, or to send them the email of what you want. Now, here is what you can hand your team member as a plan in order for them to be successful. And you can work through this next part with them. That way they're involved in the process and they can start to shine in their area of genius and start to think about solutions that you might not have thought of if you were being too directive as a leader. So your team member plan is number 1, what needs to get done? They can write that out. Then they can ask, why does it need to get done? That will help them figure out exactly the process and the things that might need to go into it in order to get the result that you want. Number 3, when it needs to be complete. What's the date? So that way they're mirroring back to you that they understand one of the points that you just gave them, which is when you wanted the result by. That way they can start to think about, okay, when do those revision cycles need to happen? When do I need to set a meeting with my leader in order to make sure I'm on the right track? Those kinds of things. That way they can start focusing on the how. Number 4, updates required. So what dates and what milestones need to happen? Have them propose that to you. When do they need to see a review? When do you need to see a proof of concept? When do you need to see interactivity in the cart process? Like they can go ahead and do that based off of when you said the final result needs to be in place. You don't have to do all of that for them. It will save you so much time. It will allow them to also curate this for a schedule that works for them with the result and the date you want in mind, but in a way that makes sense for them and their rhythm and the way that they can get things done, especially if they're in the creative space. Definitely, especially if they're in the creative space. And then number 5, allow them to ask for any additional notes or directions that they might need from you. Allow them to ask you questions and pull questions out of you. That will help them. Those 5 points are all I want you to give them, and then I want you to let them go away and come back to you with the final proposal with your date in mind. Don't get any more complicated than this. It will be so tempting for you, if you have a brain anything like mine, as a leader, to try and give them, to be helpful and give them a whole bunch of direction of what they can do and like resources they can use, and like you might be able to use this, and like try not to do that as much as possible. If they ask questions about where they can get resources or additional things you might not have thought of or assumed that they knew, allow them to pull those things out of you. Now set time in order to go through this with them. If you spend time up front going through this process and letting them go through those 5 points on their own, investing in that time up front will allow you to let them just run with it afterwards. Resist the urge to check back in too frequently as well. That's something that's bitten me in the past as well. That way it's a scarcity mentality, a fear of like they need to like be able to show something every time they see you. That's why it's really helpful to let them set the milestones and then figure out if it's too frequent or not frequent enough. And you can have a little bit of a conversation there, but try not to set that schedule for them because it might not work with a way that they could have gotten you to an even better result because they're trying to fit in the way that they work with the way that your brain works. And that's not really what matters, is it? What matters is the result that you want. The result you want in your business, the thing you want built by this date, the thing you want launched or in place by this time. How you get there whether it's walking on a bicycle, they ride a skateboard, whether they're driving a bus, flying in a helicopter or an airplane, or deep sea diving to it. I don't care about the how as the leader. That's their job to figure that out. And when and if they run into any problems, have them as well write out exactly what the problem is and their thinking on how to solve it before they come to you. That is very key as well. You know you have a really good team member if you can mentor them to be able to solve their problems for themselves and know that they're self-sufficient enough to do it. Give them that as a mentor, as a leader. That's something that you can give them that is such a huge gift, is that self-reliance knowledge that they can figure it out and that you have faith in them that they will figure it out. They don't have to come to you with every single problem or roadblock of something that didn't work out quite the way they initially thought it would. Here's the problem. I've thought about it and researched the solutions. This is how I think that we should go forward with it. And then they can check in with you afterwards. But don't set it up so you're the mommy or the daddy. Every time they have a problem, they feel like they have to check with you first and have you solve the problem, and then they go and just implement it. We want to stay out of that so that as a leader, your brain can be focusing on driving the business and getting the results and setting up what those results will be. So that's what I have for you for today. The manager filter or the manager matrix first, those first three things. That's what you concentrate on. The issue, where you list the result you want factually and specifically. The requested solution, where you focus forward on what needs to change or improve or the thing that you want with a bit of the why on it and be super specific. And then the date or the time frame that the result is going to be in place. Then make sure you work through, during a meeting with them, an email exchange, whatever it is, their team member plan. What needs to get done? Let them do this in their own words in the way that they want to do it. Don't have them do it in a way that you want. Number two, why it needs to get done. That way they're mirroring back so that you can show and they can show that they understand. When it needs to be complete, that way everyone is crystal clear on when that result needs to be in place. Updates required as far as dates and milestones. Have them propose to you when that stuff should be done, working back from when you said the result has to be in place. And then let them ask for any additional notes or directions or ideas that they've had or things like that. Let them have some ownership in the process. All right, my friends, that's what I have for you this week. That way you can use things like this, especially in this fourth quarter and going forward when you're planning for next year as well, because that's going to be happening here towards the end of Q4 if you're on a calendar year like we are, in order to think about what results that you want for next year. This can be super helpful to you to make sure that your team is growing, you are mentoring and being a leader in a way that serves them and serves your business at the same time, and creates a culture of accountability where people feel like they can use their own areas of genius in order to accomplish the results that you want to grow your business. And at the same time, they're growing themselves, and it's creating that environment of collaboration. All right, my friends, have a fantastic week. I will talk to you next time.